She told me it was a mistake. I told her I'd never let it be forgotten. It started on a night that wasn't supposed to mean anything. We had stayed behind after everyone else left, the last two in a small studio that still smelled like strong coffee and acrylic paint. The kind of space that felt like it held stories in the walls. She was packing up slowly, sleeves rolled to her elbows, hair tucked behind one ear, brows drawn in soft focus as she organized the brushes. I wasn't even supposed to be there, really. But I had stayed. For no reason I could admit to myself yet. She was older, clearly. Confident in that effortless, worn-in way. She had a presence that made people settle down when she walked in. But that night, something about her felt looser. Tired, maybe. Or distracted. When she laughed at something I said, not politely, but fully, with her head tilted slightly back, I felt it hit deeper than it should have. I looked at her too long. She noticed. There was a pause. And in that pause, something changed. She reached for a palette knife I was handing her, and for a second, our fingers touched, not a brush, not an accident. A stillness fell over both of us, our hands barely moving, skin against skin, her thumb brushing the side of my index finger. Neither of us pulled away. Her eyes met mine. Not with surprise. With awareness. Quiet, loaded awareness. Then she let go. Stepped back. And just like that, the moment collapsed. I shouldn't have, she began, but didn't finish. I swallowed. It's okay. She shook her head softly, her eyes now somewhere over my shoulder, not on me. It won't happen again. There was no anger in her voice. Just control. A quiet decision trying to protect something, maybe me. Maybe herself. I didn't say anything back. But I didn't need to. The silence between us was thick with the thing we weren't naming. A question neither of us was brave enough to answer. As she gathered her bag and walked past me, I caught the scent of her perfume, warm, floral, and familiar, and it clung to the air after she left. The door clicked softly behind her. I stood alone in the empty room, staring at the place where her hand had touched mine. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. But it was the moment everything shifted. She said it wouldn't happen again. And I believed her. But part of me already knew, I'd be chasing that feeling from now on. After that night, everything changed, but only in ways most people wouldn't notice. She didn't avoid me exactly. Not in the obvious, dramatic way. No slammed doors. No icy silence. But something in her posture had shifted. She had retreated, quietly, deliberately, into the safety of professionalism. Her tone was warmer with everyone else. Lighter. With me, it became careful. Measured. As if she was drawing lines with her voice before her heart could be tempted to redraw them. I saw it in the little things first. Where she used to let our conversations wander into music and memories, now she stuck to logistics. Times. Tasks. Names. No more playful teasing. No more sideways glances. She never sat next to me anymore if there were other seats available. And when she did, she angled her body slightly away, like a person standing just far enough from a fire not to get burned. But the most telling thing? She never touched me. Not even the casual grazes that used to feel so innocent. No more light taps on the arm when I said something ridiculous. No more adjusting the collar of my shirt when it sat wrong. No more hand reaching for mine during group sketches to correct my lines. She was drawing her borders in silence. And I was starting to hate how well she was doing it. One afternoon, we passed in the narrow hallway outside the studio kitchen. I stepped aside for her. As she moved past, the back of her hand brushed lightly against mine, barely more than static. But I felt it. Sharp. Immediate. She flinched like the contact burned her. Sorry, she said quickly, eyes avoiding mine. I didn't move. Are you? Her lips parted as if to answer, but she didn't. Just tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear and looked past me. You're acting like that night didn't matter, I said quietly. She didn't deny it. She didn't confirm it either. It can't, she said finally. But it did. Her jaw tightened. That's the problem. She turned and walked away before I could say anything more. Her steps echoed down the hallway, too fast, like she needed to outrun something. Maybe me. Maybe herself. I stood there, the echo of her voice bouncing in my chest. It wasn't rejection I felt. Not exactly. It was restraint. And that was worse. Because I knew, in her hesitation, in the way her hand had trembled for half a second when we brushed past each other, she felt it too. She was keeping her distance. But not because she didn't want more. She was keeping her distance because she did that. It was late again, the kind of late where the city turns quiet, and everything feels a little more honest. I wasn't looking for her that night. I had come back to grab something I'd left behind in the studio. But when I opened the door, there she was, sitting on the old couch beneath the window, arms wrapped around her knees, her phone resting face down beside her. She didn't notice me at first. The light from the street lamp outside painted soft gold across her face, and something about her looked smaller than usual. Not fragile. Just, unguarded. Her eyes were glassy. Not crying, but close. The kind of stillness that came right before a storm broke. I didn't say her name. I just stepped in and sat on the edge of the armchair opposite her. Gave her space. Gave her time. She noticed me a few seconds later and straightened up, like she hadn't meant to be seen this way. I didn't know anyone was still here, she said, voice steady but quiet. I could say the same to you. She didn't answer. Just pulled her cardigan tighter around her shoulders. There was a long pause, not awkward, but heavy. Then I said, "You okay?" She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. One of those days. I waited. Finally, she exhaled, slow and long. It's silly. I got a message from someone I haven't heard from in years. Just caught me off guard. There was something sharp in the way she said someone. Not a friend. Not a stranger. Someone who still had power over her mood. I didn't press. I just nodded, and said, "It doesn't sound silly." Her eyes flicked up to mine then, searching for something. Maybe judgment. Maybe comfort. You ever feel like the things you've put behind you are always one step away from finding their way back in? She asked. Her voice cracked on the last word. Just slightly. But enough. It felt like watching armor slip, just for a second. Yeah, I said. I do. She looked at me a long time. The room was so quiet I could hear the hum of the old ceiling fan. I'm tired, she said. Tired of pretending nothing touches me. And in that moment, I didn't see the composed, confident woman who always had the answers. I saw the version of her she never showed anyone, the one who had been hurt and had learned to carry it like a secret. I stood and crossed to the couch, but I didn't sit. I just stood close enough for her to feel my presence. I'm not here to fix anything, I said gently. But I won't pretend either. She looked up at me, eyes wide and glassy. I can't afford to get that close, she whispered. You already did, I said. Her gaze dropped to my hand as it rested by my side. She didn't touch it. But she didn't move away either. It was easier that way. To pretend we were just two people who happened to spend more time together than necessary. Two people who just happened to notice the other's absence a little too much. But unspoken rules have a way of becoming cages. And that night, something finally cracked. We stayed late again, both of us working on separate projects, but neither making real progress. I caught her watching me once, eyes drifting over the edge of her glasses before she blinked and looked away. Like she was trying to memorize a line she knew she'd have to erase later. I stood and walked to where she was sketching. Her notebook was open, but the page was blank. Not feeling inspired? I asked. She gave a tight smile. No. Just, distracted. I sat down across from her, closer than I should have. We were alone in the room, but the weight of everything unsaid filled the air like smoke. There was a pause. Then she closed the notebook and looked at me directly, not guarded, not polite. Just, honest. Can I ask you something? She said. Always. Why are you still here? I didn't pretend to misunderstand. Because I want to be. She nodded slowly, eyes dropping to her hands. You shouldn't be, she whispered. Why not? She looked at me like I had asked the most naive question in the world. Because this isn't supposed to happen. I'm older. I've lived through things you haven't even begun to understand. You still have your whole future ahead of you. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. That doesn't mean I don't know what I feel. Her voice softened, barely above a breath. It means you haven't learned how dangerous feelings can be yet. There was a long silence. She continued, more to herself than to me. I got involved with someone younger once. Years ago. He made me feel alive again, like I was still worth looking at. And when things got hard, when real life kicked in, he walked away like I was a phase he had outgrown. I felt her words settle between us like dust. I'm not him, I said quietly. I know, she replied. That's what scares me. Her hand was resting on the table. I reached for it, slow and deliberate, not to grab it, not to hold it. Just to be near. She didn't pull away. Her fingers twitched slightly beneath mine, like she wanted to give in and didn't trust herself to. We sat like that, suspended in something fragile. The rules we never spoke of were bending. Not breaking. Not yet. But we both knew, they couldn't hold much longer. The surface, you don't even realize you were holding your breath the whole time. We hadn't spoken about that night in the studio. The night she told me about her past, her fears, her regrets. But something changed after that, in the way she looked at me, in the softness that crept into her voice when we were alone. She stopped pulling away as quickly. Her glances lingered longer. Once, I caught her looking at me like she wished things were different, and for a moment, I believed they could be. So when I invited her to a weekend retreat out of the city, just 2 days at a cabin with a small group of friends, art, quiet, I didn't think I was overstepping. She stared at the invitation for too long. Her fingers curled around the paper like it might disappear if she didn't hold on tight enough. Then her expression changed, a flicker of something I couldn't quite name. Not fear. Not anger. Something heavier. This, she began, then paused, placing the invitation down carefully. It can't happen. I blinked. What can't? She looked up. This thing between us. Whatever it is you think it is. I don't think, I caught myself, took a breath. I know what it is. She shook her head slowly, almost sadly. You're still young enough to believe that knowing how you feel is enough. And you're still scared enough to convince yourself feelings are the enemy. That landed harder than I meant it to. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Don't make this about courage. Isn't it? Her jaw tightened. You don't understand what it would mean for me to say yes to you. I stepped closer, keeping my voice low. Then tell me. Help me understand. Her lips parted, but she didn't speak right away. When she did, her voice was barely above a whisper. It would mean letting go of control. Of safety. Of every rule I've built to protect myself. I felt something in me break a little. So what, you'd rather live behind walls? She didn't answer. I stepped back, hurt flaring in my chest. You said it won't happen again. Fine. But I'm done pretending. She looked at me sharply. I won't give you the chance to take it back this time, I said. My voice was tight. Sharper than I meant it to be. Silence. Her eyes were glassy. But she didn't argue. She just stood there, perfectly still, like if she moved, everything would fall apart. And maybe it already had. I turned and left without another word, heart pounding, unsure if I had crossed a line or just finally admitted one existed. I didn't see her for days after that. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw the look on her face, and how much it said. Even when she said nothing at all, the studio felt different without her. Emptier. Quieter in a way that didn't sit right. Like the absence of her voice had hollowed something out of the space. I told myself it was fine, that she was just busy, or needed time. But I knew. Something had cracked wide open during that argument, and neither of us knew how to hold what spilled out. I kept going back to the moment I said it, I won't give you the chance. My words had been sharp. Not cruel, but not kind either. I hadn't meant to hurt her. I had only wanted her to see that what we had wasn't a passing mistake. That it wasn't just in my head. But the look on her face. It stayed with me. Her silence said everything her voice couldn't. By the end of the week, I started staying late again, not because I expected her to show up, but because it was the only place where her absence felt closer than the rest of the world. I'd sit at the long table where we used to talk, fiddling with unfinished sketches, sipping tea that went cold before I touched it. One night, I found a note tucked into the drawer where we kept spare charcoal pencils. Folded once. No name. Just her handwriting. Sometimes, love shows up too late for me to believe in it. I read it 3 times. The first time, I thought it was goodbye. The second time, I heard the ache behind it, the part of her that wanted to believe but couldn't. And the third time, I understood something I hadn't seen before. She wasn't pushing me away because she didn't care. She was pushing me away because she did, and because she didn't trust that care wouldn't turn into regret. This wasn't about me not being enough. It was about her not believing she was allowed to be chosen anymore. That realization hit harder than anything she could have said aloud. All those moments, the lingering glances, the pulled-back touches, the softness behind her sharp edges, they weren't hesitation. They were defense. She'd built a life on being strong. On surviving disappointment. And I had walked in like I could undo all that with one look, one promise. Maybe I had underestimated just how much courage it took for someone like her to believe again. I folded the note and placed it gently back in the drawer. I wasn't angry anymore. Just quiet. And more certain than ever that this wasn't finished. I didn't need her to confess anything. I just needed her to let me stay, not in spite of everything, but because of it. And when I saw her again, I'd make sure she knew exactly that. She was standing in the back corner of a quiet gallery across town, small, intimate, the kind of place only people who cared about art without pretension ever really found. She was wearing a pale scarf I remembered from the winter, the one she used to fidget with when she was nervous, and her hair was tucked loosely into a clip that let a few strands fall across her cheek. She didn't see me at first. She was staring at a painting. Nothing extraordinary. Just 2 figures seated on a bench under a tree, not touching, but leaning ever so slightly toward each other. The kind of closeness you only notice if you've been aching for it yourself. I didn't speak right away. Just watched her from a distance, trying to read the slope of her shoulders, the angle of her head. She looked peaceful. But there was something underneath it, a tension she always carried when she was holding something back. I stepped closer. When she finally turned and saw me, she didn't smile. But she didn't look away either. We stood like that for a moment, quiet, still, and heavy with everything we hadn't said. I didn't know you'd be here, she said softly. I could say the same to you. Her eyes dropped. I almost didn't come. Why did you? She paused. Because I didn't want to regret not coming. I stepped beside her, our shoulders almost touching. Almost. You got my note, she said. I nodded. Yeah. Silence again. I meant it, she whispered. I've spent most of my life not trusting when something good shows up. Not because I don't want it. Because I'm scared I'll ruin it. Or worse, believe in it, just long enough to lose it. I let the words sink in. Then I said, if you don't let go this time, I won't let you forget what it feels like to be held on to. She looked up at me then, eyes searching mine like she was waiting for the other shoe to drop. But it didn't. I didn't reach for her hand. Not right away. I just stood there, patient, open, close enough for her to decide. She was the one who closed the gap. Her fingers brushed mine, tentative but steady. And when I gently turned my hand to hold hers, she didn't flinch. She just exhaled, like her body had been waiting to breathe for weeks. We didn't kiss. We didn't need to. Her shoulder leaned into mine, warm and quiet. Her head rested just beneath my chin, and I could feel the steadiness of her breath against my chest. It wasn't a grand moment. It was better than that. It was real. And this time, neither of us let go.